Today we're going to be working on scraping and repainting a metal front railing. You take a close look here, you can see some rust spots showing through, some evidence of prior paint, and just overall in poor shape. So before this gets any worse, we're going to prep the surface and repaint it. So the tools we're using, a stainless steel scraping brush or a stripping brush for paint. You can use a brass one as well, or something smaller like that. So here's an area that I've scraped already a little bit, and you can see it's dulled the surface relative to the areas that I haven't scraped, but it's still not perfect. So we're just going to keep running this across until we get it somewhat dulled and most of the flecks removed. So all we're doing here with the brush is just very vigorous scraping back and forth and around the edges, just to dull up the surface and hopefully scrape off most of the pitting and the rust areas. You're going to have a few stubborn spots here where there's going to be paint that you can tell needs to come off, but you can't get it off with the brush. So you can take yourself a paint scraper, pretty much any size, something stiff, and then you can work that in these channels and dig out those paint flecks that need to come out. And then once you get those out, you can go back over that with the wire brush and smooth that over. Now everything's been scraped and smoothed as best as possible. It's the next morning, so I can't paint in direct sunlight, so I had to let this sit yesterday. I wiped everything down with a tack cloth, and you can see you'll get a lot of the paint residue and powder still picked up here. So make sure you do that before you start painting. We'll give it one final inspection here, and then we'll start stirring up the paint. Here's the paint we'll be using. Rust-Oleum Painter's Touch Ultra Cover Semi-Gloss. It's a latex. You can't paint this in direct sunlight, and they also note here about 2 to 4 hours of dry time between coats. And we have to be careful when we brush this on because it's designed to make a thick coating, and if we brush excessively, we're just going to thin that. So there may be some slightly different technique here. And last, it says it's going to go on with a blue color and then dry to black. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also just going to be using a Worcester angled brush. We can actually see it is a very deep blue color. Yes, I'm using this upside down, but it was the only short paint stirrer I had. So we'll stir this up and then we'll start painting. Okay, so just gonna start this lightly. I put a little bit on already here just to show you. And I'm just gonna lay this on thick, and then maybe one smooth like that. And I think that's it. Here's the top of the railing done with the first coat, and tried to keep it kind of thick. It drips a little bit, so be careful when you do that. You can still see it has a bluish, little bit of a bluish tinge, but it's drying. And then I'll go underneath the edge of the railing, and then I'll work my way down for the first coat. And I got a drip there I got to take care of. So the first coat is done. Ended down here, it's drying. It's very, very tedious to put all this on. Of course, painting railings is a pain in the butt. We let this dry and see second coat, 2 to 4 hours. I may just do the top of the railing and see if one coat is enough on the sides. And then we'll do the first coat on the other side. First coat is now done on the other railing. I'll let this dry. I won't have time to do another second coat today because the sun is approaching. And I did try to experiment here, and I laid the coat on a little bit thicker there. So I'm trying to see if one coat will be enough but we'll have to come back and check. Although it has been about 2 hours for the first railing that I did earlier this morning, so I'm gonna try just a second coat on the top of this railing. All right, second coat just on the top of the railings, and we'll see what happens from there. Sun's getting real close, so that's about it for today. Here we are about a week later. I decided not to do a second coat. I think the next time I do this, I'm actually going to sand down to get out all of the roughness from the previous paint jobs, but overall it looks like it's well coated, smooth and well protected, so I think that took care of it.